before these comics, and before this famous comic, right, we have this. Science fiction. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster's science fiction, The Advanced Guard of Civilization, Future Civilization, the Superman Full Book. Now keep in mind that this is not a DC Comics, National Comics, officially licensed product. This was in their collection. Jerry and Joe were, of course, the original creators of Superman. And when I was in, so a little bit of trivia. When I was a kid, the first comic books I collected were Superman. And I think it was because he died that there was meaning. Superman always represented the ultimate person to solve a problem. They talked about UFOs recently. Maybe that was Superman flying in front of a jet and the government's keeping it quiet. You never know. But anyway, Superman was that person you aspire to. Now, people will compare it to religious figures and other like Beowulf or Odysseus. But ultimately, Superman was that person you try to aspire to all the time. You can never get there. The hero who put everybody together. And when he died in 92, came back obviously, but at the time when he died for almost a whole year, it's like a part of us died too, because then it was like, what do we do? That's why I always found Star Wars Rogue One to be exciting. Now inside is a little bit of history. So what you're looking at here is basically this is Joe Shuster's 1980 The Future. Yeah, there's no Duran Duran or Tears for Fears or Michael Jackson in that future. No way Joe Shuster could have anticipated this stuff. But here you have the prehistory. And it talks about Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel's life growing up. But then it talks about fictional characters throughout the turn of the century. Here you get an idea of all the different wonder stories, science fiction. Dime novels basically were novels that would cost a dime, and they were like little short stories that take a couple of pages to read, like little things you would see in a magazine article. And the Glenville Torch, that's where Jerry Siegel would promote some of the art, Joe Shuster's art. In here, that little chef delivering something, the world of the future. These are things that were inspiring the two men to create Superman. But these are just different things. And this is, of course, Joe Shuster's football art. There's different things in here that eventually led to them being great. Now, this was done by Jerry and Joe right here. Superman, Doc Savage. They were creating different things like Slam Bradley, Doc Savage. And it was inspiring them to eventually create Superman. Dr. Occult they had created, and Henry Duval, Henry Duval's like Zorro meets D'Artagnan, one of the Musketeers. So this is like classic literature. You have John Carter of Mars. So there's a lot of trivia about John Carter of Mars. Talk about the gods of Greek gods and Roman gods, and so this was their inspirations. What they create here is a magazine that happens to be about Superman. Different things like this. The Superman before. Eugene Sandow, one of the first muscle men. What inspired them were the muscle men. So you see these different little comic books that came out about how somebody can lift a safe and catch it. That's a Superman move, right? Using your muscles, lifting things twice your size. How do ants and insects lift things? And you look at all this stuff in here, all the different fictions, the Night Twin, Alias the Night Twin. I think this is the first time I'm looking at that. Gladiator. This is some of the stuff that inspired the Joe Shuster art, science fiction. A lot of different things. Here you see some of the first strong women, literally strong. These are women of femme fatales from the 1930s. I think Grandpa's getting excited. I know some of you aren't, but then again, I'm trying to show the point of this. Now, Olga Mesmer was one of the first super women, women who had superpowers. I think Denny O'Neil pointed this out. Is that Dracula? No, that's Zarkov. I think Zarkov had magic powers. Oh, no, Shandu. I'm sorry. Shandu the magician. So, you had before Doctor Strange, you had different magical beings. You had all kinds of Vera Ray. She sheds her clothes as she has more powers. Possess the special ability to shed their clothes and almost get naked. Almost get naked. It was 1930s after all. Now I'm going to show you a little bit. Now this is the art we've seen 1,000 times, but this is the most famous. The Reign of the Superman, not to be confused with the 1993 art Reign of the Superman. And basically, I can tell you flat out, this is now this is the story. This is the inspiration for Lex Luthor or the Ultra Humanite later on, in which a man, Bill Dunn, gets superpowers. He can mentally read everybody. He can do anything. Um, I'll read you one verse here. Scarcely realizing what he did or where he was bound, Dunn staggered down the streets. As he approached people, they shrank away, believing him to be under the influence of some powerful stimulant. Fate or extremely good luck kept him away from the vigilant eyes of the officers of the law. Soon Dunn was babbling incoherently and dashing along the streets at full speed, disregarding any who might be in his way. The professor's residence was situated near a public park. He was soon rushing into its shadows, tearing through the desolate park like an escaped lunatic in his blind dash. He noted no obstacles. When he crashed unexpectedly into a tree, therefore, he had received the full force of the violent contact. He toppled to the ground, dazed and half conscious. So what essentially Bill Dunn is this homeless guy that was in a bread line, and a wealthy guy, Smalley, Professor Smalley, takes him in and gives him these powers from a meteor, which has to kind of do with kryptonite. So he gets mental powers. He can read minds. He can influence people. He can put memories into people. And mind control, basically. He can read minds. He can analyze things. He can hear people's thoughts. Kind of like Martian Manhunter and Superman. They can do those things. And there's that's Bill Dunn, the bald guy. So there's a little bit. This was the prototype. This was like one of the last stories. And actually, they came up with Slam Bradley and Superman the detective, or Superman the hard hitter guy. There were a lot of prototypes before Superman, like the red blue blur, right? And all this is great. It is a beautiful story. And now there's a second version. This is the weak part of the book. I like the secondary art. Unfortunately, this is a comic book version, but I don't really care for the art in this one. And I understand the art is probably there to kind of, for those youngsters who want to just kind of look in the comic book, but I don't like the art for this one. I feel like it should have been more golden age, like Joe Shuster's art. Somebody who could duplicate that feeling. So the art is the weakest part of this book. Here's another page with the famous logo. Now, these are the early works of Jerry Siegel. Some of these are funny. Some of these are detective stories. Some of these are puzzles that you kind of read about. And then it's a math puzzle. One of these, of course, is about Lois. Lois Amster was like the redheaded girl that Charlie Brown would fall in love with. The girl you always want to talk to, but never, you can never get her attention. Let me see if I can find there it is. I think her eyes are wonderful, her lips divine. She's delicate as the chlorophyll with the clinging vine. I think her nose is exquisite. I think her chin sublime. To think that we have never met, ah, what a horrible crime. She scarcely ever looks at me. I worship every glance. If she would only talk to me, I'd do a jubilant dance. Oh, Lois, which your thoughtful eyes, cute nose, and glorious lips. I wonder if you ever realize that you are my dream ship. And this was 1932. This was reprinted 2 years ago, so it's rare to find this one. Let me see that last page. So there's another science fiction logo. This, I give this one, and I got to give it a 9. Well, maybe I'll give it an 8, only because the art sucked in the comic book version of Reign of the Superman. Now, Reign of the Superman was in a fanzine or Jerry Siegel's own magazine that he created, number 3. And that was 1933. Now, there's going to be I think the first version of Superman is supposed to be going to the public domain in 2033. If I put him in my comic book characters, there's a way around it, so I don't get sued one day. Who knows? But this is the prototype Superman, and I give this an 8 out of 10. There's a lot of things I'll talk about later in future stuff about the lawsuits and did Jerry Siegel's family getting compensation. But this is your history, your trip down history lane, or Lois Lane.